Hello, Stellar people, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Trey, and today we will continue with week 7 of the 100-Day March, which is a challenge for myself to try to make a comic book, 24 pages, in the span of about 100 days. So let's take a look at the schedule. This is week 7, the third week of April, where we'll go over the program Clip Studio Paint and developing a page in the program. And I think I'm also going to talk about how to cheat, or how I cheat to make the process of making comics faster. So last week we started with page 2. The week before that was page 1. So now we're going to be doing page 8. But before, let's recap page 2. Page 2 started with a very loose thumbnail version of the comic page. Some very roughed in characters and some written text, and that's about all I need to get started. And I do this for the whole book. And then next step is a rough sketch, or what I call a rough sketch, which is I flesh out some of the ideas from those thumbnails to this. It's more of a blocking in phase. And then after that, we go for formatting for a comic. I break everything into panels. I type out the text, and I develop the characters further. And this was page 2 from last week. So now let's get started with, this is page 8 of the 12-page first part. And we have 4 characters, our 4 main characters for this part. And so let's get to work. I have my pencil to break down my layers quickly. A top is the character design layer, where I have my character designs, so I can try to stay on model. I have below that the text layer. There's a lot of text on this layer, so I might have to adjust things to get things to fit. The pencil layers, well, the pencil layer. Below that, the background, where the background will be. A copy of a lower pencil. This is the original thumbnail version. And so I have the pencils on top of that, and the basic comic template, so I know where my trim line, my bleed line, my live area is. I always like to know that. And so let's combine the pencil layer and the layer below it. And so for that, I go to pencils, and then there's this button, transfer to a lower layer, or combine to layer below. I'll touch that, combine to layer below. And now I have both of them together, and I rename that from copy to pencils. And now we're ready to draw on top. So I use a lot of eraser and pencil at this stage. Eraser to knock things back, pencils to develop. Let's bring back this character design, because now I have four characters on the page, and it's getting kind of crowded. But I also need to keep in mind how these characters are drawn. So I'll turn that one off as I try to draw Birdie. With every character in a scene, it gets more complex. So we have Birdie entering the scene. Bunny wants her to convince DC Demon Cat to go and take an adventure with Beautiful Beast Kiss, and he is not having. All right, so let's start with a little bit of warm up with Birdie. And this is a small example of what I usually do for the whole thing. It's a lot of erasing and then redrawing, making corrections, shifting things around. Whatever I need to do to get a better image, I will do it. And so that's usually how the process goes. But let's talk about how I cheat. And this is another key image. So sometimes when I introduce a new character, I give them a larger full body image on the page. And I want that for Birdie, as she is the new entrant. But also, I also cheat. I cheat a lot. So that means sometimes I draw. So we have this. We can blow it up. Okay. T. Blow it up to about the size that I have her on the page. And so now I can take this body pose with a bit of a head turn and different hand positions. So a layer on top. Oh, yeah. Yes. A layer on top of all this. New layer. Outside of this folder. I can drop this back to say 30%. Title this layer Birdie. So the basic mechanics of how I cheat is I'm using existing artwork and drawing on top of it while shifting things and moving things around to make a new image based off an old image. So say for example, I've drawn Birdie here as a key image. So basically I'm taking Birdie's key image that I've done in this lineup, altering it slightly, and then reusing that for a new key image. It's almost like an animation where key images or keyframes, and then you can move your character doing in betweens those keyframes. So it's sort of like that, but it quickens the pace of making art. And I use this technique a fair amount. Like when I'm making morning warm-ups, I'll use those images to make new images to speed up the process. And then I erase the drawing underneath for the new image, and voila, I have my new key image for this page while using old art to make this new art. So now let's pick up the pace while I talk about just my overall process. And that is do whatever it takes to get just about what you want. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's text, and the characters need to be solid, and that's usually what my main focus for the first pass is to block in the character physical before I even worry about details. Don't worry about details at this point. Just focus on getting a solid, strong image. And then once that's locked in, or kind of sort of locked in, then you can go on to expressions, costuming, and then perfecting the drawing. But there's a lot of erasing and then redrawing, and erasing and redrawing, just to get an image just how I want it. And sometimes I drift off what the character should look like, and so I have to go back and it's like, wait a minute, this the character design looks off, so you have to fix that. But yeah, it's a lot of drawing and redrawing, drawing and redrawing, and that's just about how it goes, because you're trying to make it a better experience for the audience. Can they see what's going on? Do they understand what's happening in each individual panel? Because each individual panel adds up emotionally and with beats and text to make a cohesive story. And I do this over and over again until I'm happy. And at a certain point, you have to think about the text. How does that flow? Because words and images in a comic is the essential thing. It's the magic. Right? Every panel tells a story, and they go together, the words and the text, which for me is it's like an illustration, but the text adds things, and the drawing adds a certain something to it. So you have to think about the interplay between that, the interplay between the characters, the setting, all of that. And so there's a lot of stuff to think about. And so I don't always get everything on that first pass or even in brief. And I have to go back, look it over, stop, walk away, come back, think about it some more. Maybe I could say some things differently or try to shorten up the words, but still contain the essence of what I'm trying to say. Even like down to concepts of cameras and how will the viewer see something. So since these are childlike characters, childish, just it's not particularly deep. I'm not quite thinking about complex camera angles, fisheye lenses, and different shot angles, right? It's pretty much straightforward. And so that's what you got to think about when you're making all of this. And it's fun. It's an interesting mental puzzle that you have to go through just to try to get the words and images in line and moving the way you want them to. But it's all for audience readability and enjoyment. So always have that in mind. I usually think of the framing as the second part or second half of the process of making a comic book page. Because with this paneling, I kind of locked in. I kind of know what's going on, how it looks, and now it's adjustments. It's kind of the start of the adjustment phase to try to get everything more cohesive on the page. So there's a lot of adjustments, shrinking, expanding, shifting things left and right, moving around word balloons, trying different compositions, anything just to get it into a better spot. And since the text is key, I'm mostly trying to think of, okay, characters' placements with the text around them to help the overall image. And then once the paneling and the text is situated approximately, this is all in flux, then I start to go back into each individual panel, and that's when I start to really key in on the expressions and costuming, readability, all of that. So this is like you're plussing it, you're pushing everything to its final conclusion, but it's a lot of work still to be done because a lot of this is very rough, very unrefined. Now, if you are doing everything yourself, if you're writing it, drawing it, inking it, coloring it all yourself, there's less to worry about. If you have to hand off to someone else, someone on a team, like if you're the writer, you have to get things across to the artist that needs to be thought about. And if you're the penciler, you have to think about the next person in line, which would be the inker, and can they tell everything that's going on in the panel? And the same goes with the colorist. But if you're doing it all yourself, it adds, I wouldn't say it's less complex, but it's more for you to do. Since you are the one stop, all decisions must be made by you. They must be made timely, and sometimes you just have to keep moving. And that finishing is the most important thing. I always try to remember that. You finish, just finish it. Everything else is secondary. Just finish it. All right, so let's sunset this thing with a recap of what we have just done. So this is page 8 of Beautiful Beast comic, chapter 3. And again, I start with this very basic, very quickly done thumbnail is what I call it. Just to get the ideas out and keep it flowing. Try to get the whole book out in this form as quickly as possible, just so I can see the whole thing. And then we make adjustments from there. So from the thumbnail, we go to what I call a rough sketch. In the rough sketch, things are a little bit more fleshed out, but mostly I'm trying to get the character proportions and just get it roughed in. A lot of construction work, a lot of underneath drawings, just to see and get it to a place where I feel comfortable enough to build off of that to take it to the next phase. And that next phase is you got to work out the format of the comic by breaking up into panels to check what is the flow, the visibility, is it readable, try to keep things in bounds, especially text, because you don't want that cropped or cut. So I try to get all that in proper shape. A lot of detailing work, not as much as There could be, but I usually try to go over a quick pass just to get especially the costuming stuff done. And that is what we did today. I like it. So let's talk about next week. Back to the schedule. All right, now taking a look at the schedule, this was the end of week 7. We went over how I cheat and make the process just a little bit faster for myself, and also working out the page of page 8. This was week 7. Next week is week 8, where we will go over DC, will be the character pages that we'll be doing. And then we'll put it all together in the notebook to make the milestone, so we can see what the pages look like. I'm not sure if I'll have all the pages done, penciled, the way I'd like it by the time, this comes up, but we're always working towards it, working towards the finish line, and that will be what the milestone week. So I'll see you next week in week number 8. Wow. Things are moving quite quickly. So thank you for joining me. I have been Trey. You can find my work at treyhodges.com. Power to all the creators, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, keep shining.